Zork Grand Inquisitor. Now, this was the last of the Zork games released, but chronologically, it's next to last. I mean, this came out in 1997, and then got a re-release in 2001 for on the Macintosh computers. uh, and this was a treat. This had an all-star cast linked to it. I mean, of all the people you're going to see on it, you've probably seen a good portion of them on television. I mean, you had the gentleman who played Faceman on A-Team. I can't think of his name right now. You had Michael McKean, Rip Taylor, who many people would probably recognize from his voice as Uncle Fester on the 90s Addams Family cartoons. I believe the actor's name is Donald Gibb, who played Ogre in the Revenge of the Nerds series of films, in there as well. I mean, like I said, this is an all-star cast, at least for the time. I think Michael McKean's still staying active, and I think the guy who played Faceman is also still active. Though I think Gibb retired from acting for the most part. But this was definitely worthy of a Zork game because it was basically one of those games that kept with the Zork humor. No, for the Zork surrealism, as well as had some humor in it. And when you start the game, you find out that the Grand Inquisitor has apparently taken over Zork, basically removed the flatheads from power, and he's also banned magic. About the only place you could find any sort of magic is in the underground. And you are the adventurer. However, you're giving a pseudonym to basically reflect that the adventurer can be male or female of any age, race, creed, gender. And I gotta laugh every time that you hear Michael McKean say the name. Or something like that. And Michael McKean, voices the Dungeon Master, who was imprisoned, whose spirit is now stuck in a lantern. And, of course, was apparently the Grand Inquisitor's former schoolmate. Guy's not even isn't really shook up about having quote killed him. Grand Inquisitor, that is. And of course, the city is, even the land is under quote curfew. And in the course of events, you will have encounters with the various characters in the game. There's some humor in it. I mean, to catch a magic fish, you have to lower a hook in there, and it's like you catch him, but he gets away. No, he's also wanted because he's magical. In fact, you will find a plastic six-pack ring, and if you put that on the hook, and you hear him, "Oh, the lights are fading away. Oh, thank you, you saved me. I'm getting out of here." and brings up the lantern, I believe. You then take the lantern over to Jack, played by Face Man. Of course, he's going to work on that, but you're going to need to get that lantern back. Yep. Which means distracting him. Well, there's Grand Inquisitor doll, so, well, you gotta do what you have to do. You set fire to it. And since Jack is, obviously fire prevention specialist, he comes, puts it out, and of course he's automatically blamed for defacing the Grand Inquisitor. Remus writes, "You have no rights." Yeah. This is why the number of people being totemized is growing. And totemizing is the punishment for everything. And that is somewhat of a magical mechanical process where to basically compress you down and into this little totem, little like coaster thing. Now, as you go through the game, part of your game is taking place in the underworld, where it is actually a little bit safer to use magic. And we are using, quote, time tunnels to jump back and forth in time to get certain items. We also have a situation where we have to gather all the spells for our spell book so that we can, save the day. Which involves going into some magical territories and figuring out puzzles. Got to enter Great Underground Empire Tech. GUE Tech. Where we learn, of course, that the Dungeon Master and the Grand Inquisitor were classmates, roommates, and he did poorly in school. Grand Inquisitor. We also find out that in case magic gets something happens to magic in the land, we find out how to restore magic in the land, which is to obtain 3 magical items, one of which is the Coconut of Gwendor. This is why we played we played Beyond Zork, Coconut of Gwendor first. Yeah. Well, once we have all this stuff together, and of course we have to, in order to get some of the stuff, we have to travel back in time. Because to get some of them, we have to, quote, use various trickery by venturing into we have to open up time portals, travel back in time to such moments, such locations like the White House. Yeah, that's right. We get to see the White House. And I mean the White House in Zork 1. The White Farmhouse. We get to check out things in the past of of Port Foozle, which is not too far in the past, but we find Lucy Flathead, and turns out she played a game of Fire Water Grew with Jack. It's a high-risk game of Fire Water Grew. And I say high risk because, well, it's strip Fire Water Grew. And of course, by going to these pastimes, we get the items we need to basically restore magic. And, of course, they're going to be put into the walking castle. Did you know castles can walk? I didn't. Of course, we have to find a way to get this thing to come towards us. And then we have to get everything together, and once we get all these items together, well, we end up captured and put in prison. Because the totemizing machine is not working proper. Yeah, that was our fault. And there's some other characters that when you use the time tunnels, you have to send a totemized person back in time. Or being. And one is, of course, a dragon-like creature. I think his name is Griff. Another is a troll-like creature named Brog.
Frog not smart.
Brog
Willingly climb into Totemizer because was a place to hide and make pretty lights.
Yep, we did all that. We got in there. We got everything we needed.
Yay!
And of course, every time we got the item we need, the castle shows up. So we got to put that item in the castle. Now, once we have all the items, like I said, we're thrown in prison. Where Antera Jack helps us escape. And I will admit that it was at this point where I learned some neat little tricks in this game. And of course, also through the game, we get to visit other locations that were in the original Zork, like Flood Control Dam number 3, where we have to actually bust it. And we go to, go to Hades. And of course, we have to figure a way out of Hades. Because once you pass through the gates, you cannot go back to the land of living. So we have to find a way to trick it. Trick the boatman. We also have a fun little subway system. It's constantly moving. It never stops. After you get a ride, it just grabs you. And then when you get to your stop, that's kind of fun. And I must admit, Michael McKean brings a good deal of life to the role of Dungeon Master. The way he quips and everything. Of course, once we have everything together, get rescued from the prison, and yes, you must be careful or you will make mistakes and it will cost you your life. And whenever you die in the game, and this is only I found out when I got to the last one, you actually get a text parser screen that tells you what you did dumb. Because I figure animating death scenes for a character who is, quote, of an indeterminate gender, age, species, race, creed, everything under the sun. I mean, that would make too much work even for the 1997. And can you imagine how many CDs that would take up? Just too many. Too many. So, what did they do? Now, that's what they were released. Now, once you get rescued from the prison by the castle, and Antera Jack realizes, wait, that's the thing that came when with the girl I liked. So, you go to Flathead Mesa, where the Grand Inquisitor is announcing his final plan. And, of course, his key phrase, I am the boss of you. I am the boss of you. So, how do you deal with it? Well, simple. First, you have to get at the tower. You have to load the magical things into the tower at specific slots that are somehow miraculously put there for just such an occasion. Of course, to get to the tower, you have to get by the guards, get by an electric fence that is invisible. Somehow eliminate the charge on the electrical fence. Climb up the tower, put everything in, and then set things up. Of course, you also have to be able to get rid of the Grand Inquisitor. So as you have everything set and get everything activated, of course, Jack will basically cause divert the attention of the Grand Inquisitor by pointing you out that you're on top of the tower, in which he's like, oh no, oh no, 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 and you see the whole typical character run trying to, oh no, 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 type that sight gag. And you have a time limit to get to do the right thing, cast the right spell to basically straighten everything out. Well, the Grand Inquisitor gets up there, gets the coconut, and basically pushes you off. Of course, if you manage to do everything in time and cast the right spell, magic returns to the land. All the people who were totemized are free, untotemized. Lucy Flathead is now the reigning person in charge. Magic's free to everyone. One of her first royal duties is to name you the new dungeon master. Yes, Afghanistan is the new dungeon master. And her second duty is to explain time portals and time travel to Jack. And they make a cute couple. And the game ends there. I like it when a series goes out on a very impressive bang. And it probably wasn't going to be the last of the Zork franchise, but it ended up being the last of the Zork games ever released. And befitting Zork's status in the history of gaming and adventure games, I think this was a very fitting end. Well, at least a very fitting final release. I mean, it's not the last in the chronology because Return to Zork did that, and I'm working on that one right now. But for now, this is where I'm going to say this because this was actually a very nicely done Zork game. I do recommend you getting it. This is a game that the off-kilter logic of Zork is really part of its charm. Because even though it's a little off-kilter, it makes some sense. And having the talents that they had in this, like Michael McKean, Rip Taylor, and such, this added to this experience. Because you get to see some off-kilter humor. And let's face it, some of the things behind and part of the Zork experience is that off-kilter humor. And this game embraced it. I would have wished they had more after this, but that wasn't in the cards. And since I've been going through this in a timeline perspective, you know that there's one more after this set the timeline. I mean, this was the eighth game released, but seventh in the series chronology of just anything with Zork in the title. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I hope you've enjoyed my talking about Zork Grand Inquisitor. I do suggest you go out and purchase it. I will probably have links in the description for you to go find it at. And until the next retrospective, take care and have fun. Bye all.